Listen, I'm going to tell you something that survival preppers don't want you to know, because it makes their $50,000 bunkers look like expensive holes in the ground. Your bedroom, yes, that cluttered rectangle where you scroll your phone at 2 in the morning, can legitimately save your life from a nuclear explosion. Not from a direct hit, obviously. If a warhead detonates directly above your house, you're going to become part of the carbon cycle so fast, you won't have time to regret not paying off your credit cards. But here's the truth that gets buried under mushroom cloud hysteria. Most people who die in a nuclear attack aren't at ground zero. They're in the surrounding miles where the difference between death and survival comes down to walls, timing, and knowing which corner of your house becomes a radiation fortress. Think Mad Max is your only option? Nah. The Cold War scientists knew this. The civil defense manuals from the 1960s knew this. But somewhere between duck and cover drills and modern apocalypse movies, we forgot that nuclear survival isn't about having a bunker in Montana. It's about understanding physics and using the structure you're already standing in. So how does a regular bedroom pull this off? Stick around. It's simpler than you think. Let's start with what actually happens when a nuclear weapon detonates, because Hollywood has completely rotted everyone's understanding of this. The flash comes first, a light so bright it can permanently blind you from miles away if you're looking at it. This isn't dramatic license. The thermal pulse from a 1 megaton warhead creates temperatures hotter than the surface of the sun. Your eyes are essentially sophisticated biological cameras that can be damaged instantly by that kind of electromagnetic fury. Scary? Yeah, but those seconds after the flash are your window to survive. And you've got this, because here's the part everyone misunderstands, the bit that actually matters. That flash lasts maybe 1 to 2 seconds. Then comes the blast wave, really just a wall of compressed air moving faster than most commercial aircraft, carrying with it the shattered remains of everything it's already touched. So what do you do with those seconds between flash and impact? At 2 miles out, you've got roughly 6 seconds. At 5 miles, maybe 20 seconds. These aren't random numbers, they're your entire response window. And using them wisely is the difference between telling this story later and becoming a statistic. Now here's where it gets interesting, and this is what separates survivors from casualties. Ever wonder why some buildings survive nuclear blasts while others crumble? Your bedroom becomes valuable because of something called the inverse square law and the absorption properties of common building materials. Sounds academic, but stay with me because this is the reason some people walk away from nuclear attacks. Gamma radiation and neutrons, the invisible killers that damage your DNA, lose intensity as they travel through matter. Every wall they penetrate, every layer of material they pass through absorbs some of their energy. A single brick wall might reduce radiation by about 50%. 2 walls, especially if they're separated by space, can reduce it by 75 to 90%. This is why the center of your house, the room with the most walls between you and the outside world, becomes your survival pod. And for most people, that's either a bathroom or a bedroom. The bathroom has plumbing that can complicate things during structural stress. The bedroom, particularly if it's on the ground floor or in a multi-story building not on the top floor, offers walls, furniture, and mattresses, all of which become your improvised shielding. So imagine you're in your bed right now. Flash hits. What happens next? You don't run to a window to look. Biggest rookie mistake in the book. You don't grab your phone to film it. You drop to the floor immediately because the blast wave is coming, and it moves through open space faster through dense objects near the ground. Get behind or under the heaviest furniture you have. A bed frame if it's solid wood or metal, a heavy dresser, anything that puts mass between you and the outside world. Why? Because windows are about to become fragments, moving at incredible speeds. The blast wave doesn't politely rattle them. It turns them into thousands of projectiles that will embed themselves into walls, furniture, and any soft tissue in their path. If your bed is positioned against an interior wall, a wall that doesn't touch the outside of the building, that's your spot. Get on the side of the bed facing away from any exterior windows. Wedge yourself into the corner where the bed meets the wall and make yourself as small as possible. Where's your safest corner? Pause right now and actually look around your room. Know this before you need it. Pro tip: that mattress above you isn't just psychological comfort. A standard inner spring mattress with padding acts as a barrier against thermal radiation and debris. While it won't stop high-energy gamma rays significantly, you need feet of concrete or earth for that. It adds some protection, and every bit helps against cumulative radiation dose over time. More importantly, it'll stop the debris and absorb heat. When the blast wave hits, anything not bolted down is going to move, and you want barriers between your body and the chunks of wall or furniture that are about to achieve flight. And before you ask, no, don't shelter under a doorway like they tell you for earthquakes. Doorways are structurally strong for vertical loads, but they're often close to exterior walls and hallways that can funnel blast pressure like a wind tunnel. You want depth, layers of building material between you and the outside world. The corner of a bedroom against an interior wall gives you exactly that. Now, let me walk you through those first 30 seconds. The flash has hit, you've gotten down behind your bed, and the blast wave arrives. It's not just wind, it's a pressure front that can exert thousands of pounds per square foot, enough to collapse unreinforced structures and turn your house into a debris field. So if you're in a typical residential structure, wood frame, drywall, standard windows, the blast wave from a 1 megaton explosion at 3 miles distance will still shatter those windows, crack walls, and potentially damage the roof. But here's the crucial part. It passes. The peak overpressure lasts only a second or two. Then the pressure drops, sometimes below atmospheric pressure, as air rushes back towards the explosion site. This creates a suction effect that can be almost as destructive as the initial blast. Buildings that survive the initial pressure sometimes collapse during this negative pressure phase, so you stay protected even after the first impact stops. Wait it out. Let the physics finish. But surviving the blast is easy compared to what's next. If you make it through those first brutal minutes, your next job is triage of your person, of your room, and of the house itself. That means quick checks. Can you move without sharp pain? Is your breathing ragged? Are you bleeding in a way that won't stop with pressure? This is not a time for heroism or slow romantic rescues. A tourniquet made from a belt and a cleanish cloth will save a limb. Pressure on a wound will buy you time. If you think you've inhaled a lot of smoke, sit up, keep calm, and control your breathing. Shallow, slow breaths through a cloth will cut soot intake. Treat burns the way you would any heat injury. Cool water if it's available for a minute or two, loose sterile covering, and do not break blisters. Infection is the silent killer after the blast. Keep any wound as clean as you can with the water you have, and prioritize preventing contamination over trying fancy field medicine you aren't trained in. Shelter discipline is the boring half of survival, but it's the part that wins. You must turn your bedroom into a watertight, contamination-resistant bubble. Create an entry buffer. Designate one door as the only entrance and make that a sacrifice zone, where you remove shoes, strip outer layers, and leave trash. Use whatever you've got, garbage bags, duct tape, heavy blankets, to seal that zone. Establish routines. Every time someone comes in, they follow a short decon protocol. If you have even a little running water, use it to wash hands and face before entering the cold zone. Keep a trash bag outside the buffer for contaminated clothes and stuff it shut. Discipline here means you don't accidentally drag fallout into your living space and slowly irradiate yourself by contamination from within. Water strategy will make or break those first 2 weeks. Don't drink anything that's been exposed to open air unless you can filter and then boil it. Use what's inside your plumbing first. Your water heater and tanks are shields. If the main house water system is compromised, bottled or canned liquids are gold. Conserve. Ration to 2 liters per person per day if you're moderate in activity and the temperature is cool. Reuse water smartly for washing wounds and cleaning surfaces. Don't drink the same water you bathe in. If you must tap an outside source later, find the clearest, fastest moving water and filter it with cloth, then boil it thoroughly. If you can't boil, use purification tablets if you have them. Know where you'll get water in the house before any emergency. That's the step most people skip during preparedness theater. Air is the bigger invisible problem after radiation. You will need improvised respiratory protection if you need to go outside. A folded cotton t-shirt is better than nothing. Double up with a surgical mask if you have one. For longer exposures, a proper respirator, N95 or equivalent, is ideal, but we're talking about ad hoc. Wetting the inside of the cloth slightly helps trap particulates, though it makes breathing harder. When moving through a dusty hallway, move slowly, cover your face, and keep your head down. Remember, fallout is worst in the first hours, and the heaviest particles fall nearest the blast. Black, dusty piles mean high dose. avoid them. If you have a battery radio, this is the moment it becomes worth its weight in survival. Tune to emergency broadcasts for official guidance and for the directional hints that tell you where the plume might be. If you don't have one, a car radio on battery, not running the engine for long, can be used. Shortwave broadcasts, local emergency frequencies, or even ham radio chatter are the best sources of real-time info because the internet and cell towers will be patchy or down. Record. Literally write down any official numbers or directions. Don't rely on social media for life and death guidance in those hours. Prioritize authoritative sources. Don't underestimate the tactical benefit of mapping your house. Make a simple mental or physical map of clean zones and contaminated zones. Put the bathroom or a utility closet between you and the worst exposed wall if possible. If you have a basement, use it. The deeper and denser the material between you and the sky, the better. If you're in a high-rise without a basement, the mid-floors are often safer than the top ones. Top floors get raked by thermal effects and have less mass above them. If you have children or elderly people, factor their mobility limits into the plan. They cannot be your afterthought. Psychological survival needs rules. The first 48 hours are the hardest because you're trapped with fear and silence. Set micro goals to keep your mind busy. Check the radio, count your water, do a quick clean of the buffer zone. Try to contact one person once per day if you can. Rotating small tasks among survivors gives structure and keeps panic at bay. Share facts, not rumors. The brain wants to fixate on what it cannot control. Give it a list it can act on. Sleep when you can. Napping in 20-minute chunks is better than trying to stay awake and broken. When you begin to plan leaving, do it deliberately. Determine the direction of the wind, look at smoke plumes if fires are visible, they'll point downwind, identify the least dusty exit, don protective gear, cover exposed skin, and move fast. Time outside should be measured in minutes, not hours. Scout with a partner if possible. Carry only essentials, water, compact first aid, and a small amount of food. If you're trying to reach other survivors or a safer area, travel perpendicular to the expected fallout path. Don't follow roads that lead downwind unless you have to. Finally, think in terms of community, not lone wolf heroics. Small local groups that share skills and resources outlast solo survivalists. If you survive the first 2 weeks, your priority shifts to forming connections. Neighbors with water, someone with medical knowledge, someone with mechanical skills. Barter skills, not just goods. Survival is social intelligence as much as it is physics and grit. The bedroom as a bunker isn't poetic, it's pragmatic. Its walls buy you time, its furniture shields kinetic threats, and your decisions buy the decay curve a chance to work for you. Nothing here promises safety against everything, but it does promise something more important, the possibility of staying to tell the story. So don't just sleep in that room. Know its weak points, map its interior walls, plan your buffer, and rehearse the drop and cover move until it's muscle memory. When the light flashes, you'll only have seconds to translate knowledge into movement. That second-to-second translation is where ordinary rooms become life-saving shelters. Now look around. Find your interior wall, identify your heaviest furniture, and imagine yourself dropping into that corner 5 times in a row until the action becomes automatic. That's how physics becomes practical, and that's how a cluttered bedroom becomes your cheap, effective bunker. Once the shaking stops and the chaos settles, you've got a new problem: fire. That thermal pulse has ignited every flammable surface that had direct line of sight to the explosion. Curtains are burning, wood siding is smoldering. Anything dark colored that absorbed that intense infrared energy is now a heat source. In Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the firestorms killed more people than the blast itself. So here's your escape priority if smoke's creeping in. Assess whether staying put will kill you from smoke inhalation before radiation does. Generally, if your immediate area isn't on fire and you're in a room with a door you can close, stay there. Smoke rises, and ground floor rooms with closed doors can remain breathable even while upper floors burn. But if fire is spreading directly towards you, move to another interior room further from the flames, staying low, keeping as many walls as possible between you and the outside. What you absolutely don't do is go outside to see what happened or check on others. Why? Because outside is where the fallout is about to arrive, and this is where survival gets complicated fast. Here's what fallout actually is, stripped of the mystical dread. It's vaporized bomb material, vaporized earth, and that got sucked up into that mushroom cloud. This material is now radioactive, coated with isotopes that are spewing gamma rays and beta particles, and it's falling back to Earth as a fine dust that will coat every surface. The particles are small enough to be inhaled, and once they're in your lungs or digestive system, they'll irradiate you from the inside, which is exponentially more lethal than external exposure. The heaviest, most dangerous fallout arrives within 15 to 30 minutes if you're downwind. Within an hour, everything outside is contaminated. Ever wonder why movies skip this part? Because it's terrifying in its mundanity. Invisible death settling like snow. Your bedroom now needs to become a sealed environment. Close the door, stuff towels or clothing along the bottom gap to minimize air exchange. If you have duct tape and plastic sheeting, seal windows that aren't broken. But if your windows survived, covering them with anything dense helps. Hang a blanket over them. Push furniture against them as possible. Every layer is shielding. That mattress you used for blast protection, now you can prop it up or lean it against the wall facing the most likely fallout direction, usually toward the blast or downwind. While a mattress won't dramatically reduce gamma radiation the way thick concrete would, it adds another barrier, and in radiation exposure, reducing your dose rate even modestly over days and weeks matters for survival. Here's where the math gets beautiful. Radioactive decay follows a rule of thumb. For every 7-fold increase in time after the explosion, the radiation level drops by a factor of 10. After 7 hours, radiation is 1/10 what it was at 1 hour. After 49 hours, about 2 days, it's 1/100th. After 2 weeks, it's 1,000th. What does this mean for you? If the radiation level outside 1 hour after the blast would kill you in an hour of exposure, after 2 days, that same exposure would take about 4 days to kill you. And after 2 weeks, you could survive brief excursions outside. Time becomes your ally. Staying inside, staying shielded is how you survive long enough for the decay curve to work in your favor. This is physics working for you, not against you. But you need water and food. If you don't have water in your bedroom, and most people don't, you need to think fast about what's already in your house. The pipes still contain pre-blast water. It's sealed in the plumbing system and safe to drink. If you can reach a bathroom safely, staying interior and low, fill every container you can find. The bathtub, sinks, pots, bottles. Do this quickly and get back to your shielded position. Water from outdoor sources or anything exposed after the blast is contaminated. Same with food. Anything sealed, canned goods, packaged food, bottles, is protected by its packaging. Anything exposed is now coated with radioactive dust and dangerous unless you can wash it extensively, which requires more water than you'll have. Now let's talk about the hidden horror no one mentions. The psychological warfare of waiting begins around hour 6. You're alive, you're in pain from cuts or smoke inhalation, and you can't see what's happening outside. The silence breaks with creaking structures, distant sounds, maybe calls for help. And here's the brutal truth. Responding to those cries during the first 48 hours means exposing yourself to radiation levels that could be lethal. You will want to help. Every human instinct will scream at you to act. But if you go outside, you're risking a death sentence unless you can pull them inside and decontaminate immediately. Stripping every piece of clothing and washing exposed skin with water you probably don't have. Strip outside if possible, or in an entry room that can be sealed off afterward. Leave every piece of clothing outside. Wash exposed skin thoroughly if you have water, focusing on hair, face, and hands. Fallout clings to hair and skin oils. If water is scarce, even a damp cloth helps. The goal is preventing fallout particles from entering your clean shelter space, because once inside, you're living in contamination that slowly poisons you. You should understand what radiation does to your body, because symptoms will dictate decisions. Radiation damage hits rapidly dividing cells hardest: gut lining, bone marrow, hair follicles. At low doses, you might feel nauseous within hours, then improve, the walking ghost phase where you feel fine before symptoms potentially return. At moderate doses, symptoms progress: vomiting, diarrhea, weakness, hair loss, bleeding as your blood's ability to clot fails. At high doses, the nervous system shuts down quickly. There's no field treatment beyond managing symptoms, preventing infection, and staying hydrated. The bottom line, minimize exposure in those critical first days and weeks because accumulated dose is what kills. After 48 to 72 hours, radiation levels have dropped enough that brief excursions, measured in minutes, not hours, become survivable if you minimize exposure. Move quickly, avoid visible dust concentrations, and return to shelter immediately. Your first missions are reconnaissance. Is your house structurally sound? Are there fires, water sources, other survivors? Without a dosimeter, you're operating on educated guesses. Areas with heavy dust are hot zones. Areas shielded by buildings or terrain are lower risk. Basements, if accessible, are superior because 3 feet of packed dirt reduces gamma radiation by about 99%. Here's something cool. You can improvise a crude radiation detector with photographic film or old camera sensors. Film will fog when exposed to radiation. The degree of fogging correlates to exposure level. If you have unexposed sealed film, you can use it as a basic dosimeter. Expose it in different locations for set periods and check for fogging later. Digital camera sensors also react to radiation, showing noise or artifacts when exposed. These aren't precise, but they give you data. This area is hotter than that area, this room is safer. When you have no actual detection equipment, improvised methods can guide your decisions about where to shelter and when to move. Long-term bedroom survival requires thinking about zones and contamination control. Establish a hot zone near entrances or broken windows where fallout entered, a buffer zone in hallways or less protected rooms, and a cold zone, your bedroom, where you spend most time. Moving between zones requires discipline. Remove shoes before entering the buffer zone, wash hands, minimize what you bring from contaminated areas into clean spaces. Waste management becomes serious when toilets don't flush. Improvised solutions include double-bagged plastic, sealed containers, or designating a specific bathroom as a waste zone you only enter briefly. Not glamorous, but necessary for preventing disease in confined quarters. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Government rescue will be extremely limited in the short term. Emergency services will be overwhelmed, communication networks destroyed, and responders face the same radiation dangers. So your bedroom survival strategy isn't about waiting for rescue in those first weeks. It's about waiting for the environment to become survivable enough that you can rescue yourself or connect with local survivors. After 2 weeks, when radiation drops to manageable levels, reality becomes localized survival communities and rebuilding from shattered infrastructure. Your bedroom kept you alive through the acute crisis. What comes next requires different skills: community building, resource management, and retaining enough health to function in a world without modern conveniences. The decision of when to leave depends on your situation. If you're in a high fallout zone with mobility and supplies, moving perpendicular to the fallout plume after 2 weeks might reduce ongoing exposure. Fallout patterns follow prevailing winds, so understanding local weather gives you direction. But travel during the fallout period requires careful planning, covering exposed skin, using improvised masks to avoid inhaling particles, moving quickly through contaminated zones, decontaminating frequently, and carrying enough water. Every hour in a contaminated environment is a cumulative exposure pushing you towards dangerous thresholds. The preppers who spent fortunes on bunkers weren't wrong about preparing, they were wrong thinking preparation requires wealth. The knowledge that your bedroom, with quick thinking and the right actions, offers legitimate protection is democratizing. Nuclear survival isn't reserved for the rich or militarily connected. It's available to anyone with walls, furniture, and the willingness to act in those critical first seconds. Your bedroom isn't a bunker, but it doesn't need to be. It just needs to be between you and the explosion long enough for physics to take your side. Here's the operational summary. Your bedroom can save you from a nuclear blast if you're outside the immediate destruction radius, if you act the instant you see the flash, if you use furniture and walls as shielding, if you seal yourself inside for at least 2 days and preferably 2 weeks, if you have access to water and food, and if you understand that survival means isolation while radiation decays. It's not comfortable, it's not guaranteed, and it doesn't protect against direct hits or city center detonations. But it's real physics, real protective strategy, and it's already around you. Most people will never need this information, but for those who do, in that moment when the sky lights up brighter than noon in the middle of the night, knowing that survival is possible changes everything. Not survival through expensive preparation or rural retreats, but survival through understanding that walls work,
mass works, and time works. The bedroom you sleep in every night contains the materials and geometry to keep radiation and blast effects from killing you.